Chairman, I was not sworn in, but having sat here, I'd like to say a few words. May I do that?
Yes, you may.
Do you want me to swear myself in?
Do you want to swear in? I think we haven't.
You got it. I'm going to tell you the truth. Tell you the truth.
I think we'll let you go. Go ahead.
My name is Deborah Hickman, and I've lived in Wicomico County my whole life, and I'm 69. I love Salisbury. I started my working experiences in downtown Salisbury, from library to fashion shop to Penny's, Board of Elections downtown, and I retired from the Wicomico County Board of Elections. I love Salisbury, but I'm seeing growth in Salisbury in ways that I'm really concerned about, and I am very concerned about the issue we're here tonight for. I'm getting a little bit older. I fell and I hurt myself, and I'm having to park in the parking garage. And we had a neighbor whose daughter was beat up in a parking garage. And I have very deep concerns about going through that parking garage. At times, I've had to go up to the courthouse when there's a trial. You really have no place to park. And now it's becoming that they're taking the parking places away. The units, 40 units, I think that's a plenty. Let's see where it goes in 5 years. Will it still stay this way? I guess that's I'm getting older, as my parents would be. They don't want growth. I guess I don't either. I like Salisbury. I like the historical part of Salisbury. I don't want more of these people in. Salisbury is growing. Out by me now, they're going to put up 3 huge developments, lower income, affordable homes, they call them. Where are the jobs? Where are the jobs in Salisbury? So basically, I would like to see this stay at 40, don't go anymore, because I don't see why Salisbury State kids would come over here, maybe go to school for 4 years, but they're not going to stay. They're going to go somewhere else, unless we get big business in Salisbury. But I'm just a Delmarva Power, no, not Delmarva Power, I was a Delmarva citizen, and I love Salisbury. I just want to keep that even keel and not go too far like they got up in the city, because Salisbury is down home Salisbury. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Richard Inslee. I live in Riverside Pines, Salisbury. And I want to be clear, I am pro-growth. I'm in favor of growth in downtown Salisbury. I think we need that. But my principal issue in this whole matter is parking and supply and demand of parking. If we look back maybe 5-10 years or so and further in Salisbury's history, parking has been relatively in balance, the supply of parking and the demand for parking. More recently, we've sold a majority of the city's parking lots that the city owned. So demand stays here and supply goes down here. There's an imbalance. You double the density, supply stays here, and demand goes up here. Creates a huge imbalance. And with that imbalance, people who are used to using downtown Salisbury are going to have a big problem with where to park. The tenants, those of owners who have tenants are not likely to renew their leases if they don't have any place to park. Businesses, customers, employees, if the employees don't have anywhere to park, or if there are 5 people competing for one parking place, that's as good as not having anywhere to park, because 4 out of 5 are not going to have a place to park. So they're going to opt for somewhere where they do have parking. So when it gets out of balance, you've got a serious problem. Customers leave, employees leave, businesses leave, tenants leave. Parking is the oxygen that downtown needs to breathe. Don't forget that. No parking, you've got a huge problem. I understand why developer wants higher density. Density is directly related, the number of units is directly related to the value of the project. 200 units may be worth one thing, 400 units is worth twice that much. So that's certainly understandable. If I was a developer, I might be doing the same thing. But you got to take all these factors, including parking, into consideration. Lastly, I want to address briefly Mr. Shebline's assertion that a small group of landlords are the people who are mainly opposed to this. That's baloney. I can tell you as a landlord, I feel welcome to the party. If you want to come, you're welcome to come. But don't get halfway through the meal and then say, oh, by the way, we need you all to pay our check. We can't afford to do it.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. I'm Molly Hilligoss, Habitat for Humanity. I'm the president and CEO. And on behalf of our board and our organization, we are in support of the increased density for the downtown CBD. So the one thing that, some of you guys don't realize, I grew up here, went to St. Francis. My parents both worked. I had to walk to the library after school. And back in the early 80s, when I had a little extra money, I would go to the Woolworths, and the shelves were almost empty back then. Soon after the Woolworths closed, the downtown was dead. It was dead. And it was scary. And the one thing that no one's really talked about is, let's think about what happens if nothing happens. Let's talk about disinvestment. No one's talked about that. We've had two developers here talk about how much they've invested into downtown, two developers. So the folks that, you want to see more happen here, where's your money? Step up. Disinvestment in downtown areas can lead to a range of social, economic, and environmental challenges: economic decline, urban decay, blight, abandonment, public space degradation, social consequences, crime, barriers to recovery, all that, right? That's why Habitat for Humanity was asked to help redevelop the Church Street neighborhood back in 2001. That's what we've been doing. Drive through Church Street now. Oh, what do you see? Tidal Health is building there. How about that? That's what density does. We need density in the downtown area. It makes sense. It makes so much sense that Habitat for Humanity International, it is a advocacy platform nationwide. It's great land use. It's efficient use of space. Just environmentally, it's better. I could go on and on. But let's talk about the money. So with these developers investing millions and millions of dollars, City of Salisbury and the Wicomico County should be salivating at the tax revenue, because that will bring more investment, will pay for the things that we need. And my last comment is that it would be far more productive if we could figure out how to ensure that the parking and the housing needs are met. And that ensures the long-term viability of not just the businesses, but the people. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Randy Taylor, Mayor of the City of Salisbury. I've owned a building downtown for 25 years, had a business down here for 14, so I certainly understand the delicate ecosystem is the downtown. I own a house 25 years, 3 blocks from the downtown. So I'm not talking from the county on the outer limits. The problem I've had, and I look around the room, this whole debate, these are friends of mine. I know all of you, most of you in this room. And I know most of you where you live. And most of you either drove here and walked, but none of you walked from home. So everybody that comes to downtown needs a parking space. Now, I'm not trying to market blank, fresh parking spaces and vacant parking lots. But what I am saying, it's a reality. When we're talking about 6 parcels that have been sold, our parking lots in the last, whatever it is, 6 or 7 years, they're going to be redeveloped. And I just do the basic math, no requirement for a big parking study. And if you look at what we're displacing and what we're generating with even the existing density, forget about the 80, we're going to be several hundred parking spaces short, not to mention the fact that the city's going to have to pick up the deficiency of the debt service and the operating cost of the parking garage to subsidize a project downtown, which just shouldn't be the way it is. That said, when I was a kid, my parents had a cat named Tuffy. And you could play on a stick, and that thing had a little, you could distract it all day long with this little shiny object. From the time it was a kid to the time it was an adult, 13 years old. And I feel like it's where we are. We're so distracted by all these issues that aren't issues, that are not relevant. They're all talking about, everybody's for development downtown. Everyone's for positive. In fact, we're missing a great opportunity to do a neo-traditional town redevelopment, including the library property, 111 and 15, and we're getting so caught up in this high-density project that we cannot accommodate. We cannot accommodate it. I mean, if we want to go to 80, why don't we go to 250? I mean, it's that ridiculous. I don't mean to use that word, but it's that ridiculous. And if we make the downtown inaccessible, you guys right here, out of business. I've been down there. I know what it's like. We've been there for 14 years. You're going to lose your accessibility. The people on a Friday night that are at Mogan's are not going to be people at the Ross. Tony Tank, Nutter's Crossing, Rustic Acres, Ocean City. That's who's eating there. That's who's eating at Market Street. Not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm not saying they wouldn't contribute. What I am saying is if we eliminate the accessibility of the downtown, we will ruin our core business. And that's just a reality. So, like I say, everybody in this room drove here to park. We're all going to need it going forward. So, that said, and we will be the only small town that I'm aware of where 90% of its parking is parking garages, which I think, by its definition, would make us kind of on the downside list of most, intimate evening walks downtown. So, that's just me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nicole Blackwater. Thank you so much for allowing me to make a comment today. I also have here for you 16 pages of we're at 688 signatures as of 2 hours ago. I haven't checked since I've been here. We're still counting. So I want to talk a little bit about who I am first. Who is Nicole Blackwater? Well, I was born and raised on a one-house chicken farm with a bean field in our state's poorest county. My family also ran a small general store out in the Wicomico forest, and I've always endeavored to make my family very proud. And it is that entrepreneurial spirit that drives me, and that is why I helped to co-found the Downtown Salisbury Business Alliance about a year ago is when we started working together, I and Nicole Rogers. And so with our petition, I do want to note that, yes, our petition was started earlier, but that's because this is something that we as the Alliance have been working on for a long time. This is not just something that came up the other day. I would also like to address some of the concerns that were expressed in the staff report. So the Downtown Salisbury Business Alliance, like I said, has been working on this for quite a while. What we have composed is a market development project, and basically it's kind of going to be like the accountability partner here. So what we want to do is we want to collaborate with the developers and the businesses and work together to ensure that all of the things that happen because of development are taken care of and our community is taken care of. So this is all of those things like sustainability, business retention, and we're very interested in making a place where people can find jobs downtown. Employment is critical to us having people around and living there. We also would like to say that our historic district is another critical issue, but some of these buildings are falling apart and there hasn't been a good enough reason to restore them. But this increased density will help bring money and especially the motivation that we need to revitalize these buildings. I also acknowledge that some folks are worried about what downtown's going to look like. And unfortunately, downtowns have to evolve in order to compete in today's world of convenient online shopping and corporate retail. They're gonna have to look different. So it won't look like it did in the past, but that is key to our survival. So I also wanted to acknowledge that while we've been here for a workday, many of us are owner-operated businesses, so we couldn't be here. But I think it's critical for you guys to talk to the businesses who really rely on people being downtown and are not doing business outside of downtown. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's almost good evening, but I think it's still good afternoon. My name is Lynn Bratton. I live on South Boulevard. I've been a City of Salisbury resident for, oh my goodness, since the 70s. But prior to that, I was a teenager in the downtown core, coming to Hess Apparel and Hess Juniors and Benjamin's and J.C. Penney's and Montgomery Ward's and the Acme store that used to be there and the English Grill that was downtown. And the stores were everywhere. Fashion shop, men's stores, Lad and Lassie, three jewelry stores. But we're here again. You know, in November, not in front of you guys, but in November of last year, there was a plea to increase density exemption to 77 by one particular three-parcel owner, developer, and that was denied for reasons, and those reasons are written in the documents that I'm sure you've read. Those reasons were valid reasons, and it was denied. And 2 times, it was also upheld by circuit court, and now it's been appealed another level. But then again, we're here looking for a change of the rules. So if I couldn't get my 77, so now we need to just change the rules for the entire central business district, which is huge, folks. It's not just the corridor down here behind us. The central business district is a big area. And if you change that rule to affect everything, there are going to be cause and effects. I mean, there's an old principle, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. I mean, there's going to be consequences, and I want you, as a board, you are tasked with putting the emotions of the arguments away and actually looking at those cause and effects relationships. Put the emotions away. I love the store that Nicole has. I love Breathe. They need foot traffic. They need people. But you got to take the emotion out of the decision and look at the facts. And I think the DID report really spelled many of those concerns out, and there weren't answers for them. A lot of you know that I'm I'm pretty involved in theater with community players, and I do a lot with them. And there is a show that I really like. We costumed it several years ago, and it's Into the Woods. And the first part of Into the Woods is really good. It's a fun, I mean, I even was thinking about taking my granddaughter because it was kind of happy. I didn't know the show. And the second part of it gets really pretty dark. And the basic line in that is, be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you wish for. We want the density, we want the foot traffic, we want the people, but we also need to look at what those consequences are going to be. And as somebody that's lived here for a long time, and I grew up in the same community as Nicole Blackwater, and I have been to the little store that she referenced, we need to protect what we've got and keep growing it and make it viable. But your job is to make that decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, good afternoon. My name is Chris Gilkerson. I live in Wicomico County. I am a partner in a proposed project that would be impacted by this text amendment. But more importantly, I'm a lifelong resident of Salisbury in Wicomico County, born in Salisbury, attended Wicomico County Public Schools, and eventually, after a long time, graduated Salisbury University. I'm also now proudly raising a family in our beloved community. Over the past nearly 20 years, I've spent a tremendous amount of time in our downtown. I have worked, played, and invested both emotionally and financially in Salisbury Central Business District. To this day, our office headquarters are located in downtown and have been since the 1980s. And we have no plans to relocate them anytime soon. I'm here today to extend my full support for this text amendment. Our community deserves the type of assets that may have the opportunity for development with this increase in density. For far too long, our downtown has struggled to keep local businesses open. Many have failed or relocated in the nearly 20 years I have come to work downtown Salisbury every day. For far too long, our downtown has suffered from misperceptions. And for far too long, downtown Salisbury has not unlocked its full potential. I don't stand alone in support for this text amendment. In addition to the several precedents that have been established by allowing projects of this scale previously, there's also been an overwhelming amount of support from our community as a whole. I think I heard there was almost 700 people signed the petition. In addition to that, we have the Salisbury City Council, Salisbury Area Chamber of Commerce, Greater Salisbury, Wicomico Public Library, Purdue Farms, Tidal Health, Habitat for Humanity, Downtown Salisbury Business Alliance, and the state of Maryland all support this text amendment. It's time to do the right thing to set up our Salisbury Central Business District for sustainable progress and to break the cycle. I respectfully request you guys thoughtfully consider the information before you, the overwhelming support shown, and the many positive impacts this text amendment would have, not only for our Salisbury Central Business District, but more importantly for future generations of our community. I strongly encourage a favorable recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good late afternoon. Robert Taylor, Salisbury resident since 1971. I moved down here to get away from density, from Baltimore City. Grew up near there, saw what was happening, and wanted to be somewhere else. Let me say this before I get into the weeds. I think you've had so much come before you today. We've had new presentations by the applicant. You've had a lot of emails put before you. I've seen those. They're in the public record. It's probably 100 pages. And I think we also need to have the opportunity, those of us who are opposed to this, to respond to what the applicant put in today. This could have been put in the October meeting by them. It wasn't. So I would suggest that you wait until your December meeting, possibly even discuss it further then, and let us have the full opportunity rather than making your decision today. Now, having said that, I think it's almost inevitable not to discuss what happened to the special exception matter that's been mentioned here a few times. That was turned down by the Board of Appeals. And Mr. Showalter tried to somehow play that to say, oh, well, that just means now the density is only like 10 units more than it used to be. Well, the long and the short of it is Maryland zoning law was changed 50 years ago to make it clear that you could not use a special exception to increase density. The Ross is essentially an unlawful, non-conforming use. Now, probably nothing can be done about it because it's built. So there's a doctrine of latches. I'm sure some of you all, Mr. DeShiel knows what latches are. It's a legal term. But anyway, the only two projects that are really have more density that got it recently are the Ross and the Powell building with the 20 units. The others that are listed in their application, 8 of them, some of those buildings go back to 1880. I don't know when they started being used for residential. I think it would be probably impossible to know. But I know that when I moved here in 1971, some of them were, because I've been in some of them. I don't have time to go through all of the stuff that was said today. We only get 3 minutes. The developer has had over an hour in October and this month. So I think we need to let people make their response to what they've said. And just so people know, I'm not now and never have been a landlord. I did work in downtown Salisbury for about 45 years at One Plaza East, and I have a lot of interest in what's going to happen to downtown Salisbury. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I didn't raise my hand when everyone was sworn in, but I was present, so if I need to swear in, I can do that. Okay.
I'll let you continue. Would you give us your name, please, and your
Sure.
place of
I'm
residence?
A.M. Williamson, and I live in Wicomico County, and I've been here since 1980. And what I found when I first moved here and throughout different times over the last 44 years is that, as the one gentleman talked about, the supply and the demand imbalance. So right now, getting a dental appointment is a year's wait. Getting a colonoscopy is a year's wait. We're losing our doctors. We don't have physicians. We can't get care. There's no pediatrics. So the doctors that are listed in Salisbury, just call around. Say, I'd like to be a new patient. Oh, we only see children. That's it. It's just terrible. The grocery stores, what do we have? What, 3 Food Lions? The one that used to be the Giant and Walmart, what do we have? We hardly have any food stores here. So when you go to the store, you can't get what you need. There's no food there. So now we're going to have 6,000 people competing with what's already here that I can't get care for. Like, I'm going to have to get doctor's appointments out of town. And then I have to drive that distance, and I'm already driving that distance. And to come in downtown, I used to love to come downtown. And then when I came downtown, oh, you know what? I'm going to park my car and I'm going to walk around. I walked up the newly paved street where you can park everywhere. All the business signs, the doors are locked. There's a sign, knock if you want entry. They do not let you in. You can't just walk into their store. You have to knock, and then they have to decide to let you in. They have to look to see who you are. I oppose this increase. I think 44 units per acre is plenty. Let's see what we do in 5 years from now. See what the consequences of that before we go any further. I mean, please do not do this. I beg you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Chris Adams. My husband and I own 100 West Main Street, which is right across the street. I listened the whole day to this conversation. I was also present for the special exception meeting where this particular project was voted down. And now I'm watching this whole process of this reapplication to get change the zoning law. And I think most people are pro-smart growth, but it doesn't seem smart to me when we don't even know what the optimum density is for downtown. There's nobody once today has said, oh, well, maybe it's 95, maybe it's 65, maybe it's 35, but nobody has given an actual number of what is sustainable for the future of the city. And we just can't plunge into this without knowing the repercussions of what's going to happen for the people who are currently downtown, but also for all of our great businesses and all of our visitors that come here. It's already a challenge to get downtown now with the way the the driving patterns are, trying to get in from Route 13. You can't make a left-hand turn, when you're going north. Dealing with Carroll Street and that craziness over there with the way that's been turned around. There's lots of contributors to why downtown may not be thriving right now, but if we're going to go forward and say we want it to thrive, can't we have something concrete to work with? Instead of some arbitrary number of 80 that somebody pulled out of the air and said 80. That makes absolutely no sense to me, that we're going to change the whole city because somebody said 80. So, yes, I am pro-growth. Yes, I want to see all the good things happen when we may increase density, but we can't do it if we can't afford it. And by the way, we're not going to see any tax dollars from this project for many years. 10% in the next 10 years, there'll be 10% of their taxes collected. So if there are problems, and there is a problem with infrastructure, there's no money to fix it with. We're not going to see any real money coming in for years to come on these big projects that we're just saying we're going to do. So who's going to pay for it? Well, a lot of people who rent don't realize that they pay taxes because they never see a rent bill. Instead, they see, oh, this is what my rent is, and it went up this much this year. But they don't realize that they're paying taxes. And they don't realize that their taxes are contributing to the success of a developer of luxury housing, which to me doesn't make sense when so many people in the city, the 70% that rent, are standard, low income, and affordable housing. So let's just take a step back and look at this and try to come up with a formula that's going to work for everybody and stop trying to blame one segment of the population or whatever. We're all here together. We're all vested. We all love Salisbury. Let's go forward as a community, like that sign out there says unity. Let's try to work toward that and get some numbers that actually are sustainable instead of just flinging ourselves forward into something that we don't know what's going to happen. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone else that would like to be heard?
Robert Hagier, 913 South Shoemaker Drive. I got to see my guidance counselor from high school here, so that was cool. And I also got to see my fellow safety on our high school football team from James M. Bennett, Mr. Matt Heim. And I actually want to say the same thing that he said, but in a different way. Low density kills farmland. Low density destroys our watermen. Low density is killing Delmarva. Okay, if you guys care about Delmarva, which Salisbury is the crossroads of, then you have to raise density. Rustic acres killed farmland. Tony Tank killed farmland. Nutter's Cross killed farmland. Without it, we are nothing. And finally, I'll end with people who walk are people who shop.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else that would like to be heard? Okay. Are there questions from either of the commission members? Again, either for our city staff or for the developer? Anyone have another comment or question they'd like to ask?
I'd like to add a comment. Someone recently brought up this question of, where does this 80 come from? And that was something I was hoping to hear from somebody from staff. At the last meeting, I'd asked, what are the other cities doing? I brought up Frederick as an example. Not hearing that and not seeing that in the latest staff report, I took a little time last night looking at other cities' zoning codes. One thing that strikes me is that a lot of other municipalities just aren't regulating density this way. They're not regulating dwelling units per acre. So I looked at Salisbury has a population of about 33,000 people, downtown 75 feet height restriction, 40 dwelling units per acre, up to 70 by special exemption. I looked at Cambridge. They allow 63 dwelling units per acre in their corridor multifamily district, 13,000 residents. Frederick, 75 units per acre, 150 in their Carroll Creek overlay district by special exemption, larger city. Westminster does not regulate density this way. They allow up to 8 stories. It's a much smaller city, 18,000. Hagerstown, no regulation. About 40,000 people. They allow up to 7 stories, up to 12 stories by special exemption. Cumberland, no regulation on dwelling units per acre. Up to 135 feet for buildings in their residential office and central business district. 20,000 people, a smaller town. Dover does not regulate dwelling units per acre. In their RG4 multi-story residence unit, they zone, they allow up to 130-foot building height, 10 stories. So just say that from what I'm seeing in other municipalities, this seems quite in line with good standard practices.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Sir,
Yeah,
Mr.
yes. Sir, go ahead.
Chair. So just one, and then I'll let my fellow commissioners occupy the time in between. Mr. Uri, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but many of the members of the public during their public comment portion referenced the staff report and relied on that and spoke to the credibility of it and acknowledged it. So, and I know that we struck 2 portions of the staff report there, and you mentioned that you didn't write that. Neither one of your associates said that they did. So can you just mention, who wrote those portions that we struck from the record?
I honestly do not know.
Okay.
So I can't, I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll say it again, just so it's caught on tape or on the recording. I do not know. I can't answer that.
I could say, but I believe I had written the paragraph, but the sentence I don't recall writing. So I'm not sure. But it's a long report. Many people wrote many parts of it. Many
Sure.
iterations, many sentences were written by multiple people as well.
I understand.
Okay.
And so, just given that, again, you didn't, you all collectively wrote that. Again, you all are standing by the decision in the ending paragraph that you don't support this text amendment? Question mark.
Thank you. As it's written. I will say that I think the city supports growth, supports the request to increase density, but we don't have all the facts in front of us, I don't think.
Sure.
That seems to be the appearance today. And in simple terms, to me, this seems to be an instance where everybody's right and everybody's wrong all at the same time.
Absolutely.
And I hope the commission understands that as well. There's a lot to digest here.
Sure.
And so that's why, in this instance, we can't support it as it's currently written.
Absolutely. Did you all, and I know that our chairman suggested for the city and the development staff to meet and kind of work out a lot of the details and kind of get the questions and clarity. Were there meetings that did transpire, and were you all able to reach some sort of consensus or kind of work through some of those kinks?
We started on it.
Okay.
A month isn't much time to do that.
Of course, yeah.
You know, so the talks have started.
Okay.
So I think we are working towards finding a goal. It's just we couldn't find that by today.
Are there other comments from either of the commission members?
I think so.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I think history will show, me being on the planning and zoning and on the county council, I'm not anti-growth. However, you need to use sensible growth. And I guess the elephant in the room is the parking situation that seems like a lot of people have talked about. Increasing the density to higher, taller buildings, you know, if you had the room for parking, would probably be a good thing. I'm going to use two businesses as reference. One's one of the largest businesses in the world, and that's Walmart. There may be a Walmart store somewhere that doesn't have a parking lot, but I don't know where it's at.
Puerto Rico. I just went there. Yeah, they had a parking garage.
All right. Okay. Well, it's not a very big country. You can bicycle from one end to the other, right? Okay. So as a planning commission here, every project we take on just about, we talk about parking, whether it's a development for residential townhouses or it's a Chick-fil-A or whatever. We talk about parking. How's the parking going to work? The other business I'll use, I won't name them, but there was a store that resided in Salisbury for well over 100 years. They started to see their business go down. They fought it for years and years. They finally moved to South Salisbury Boulevard, and their business has been outstanding. And when I talked to them about it, they said, it's because of parking. So if you bring a lot of more people downtown, and I hear about foot traffic, and I think, oh, Randy, he might be gone, I don't know, or the mayor, but anybody that gets to Salisbury that's going to walk is going to get here in a car, one way or the other, or a truck or a pickup. They talk about losing businesses downtown. St. John's Properties has got 2 or 3 large developments going up. They're called flex buildings. And they're going up on the west side, and they've got one going up over on Bigland Park Drive. These are buildings that businesses can move into. You can have a hairdresser in this building. You can have a heating and air conditioning company in this building. You can have a tattoo shop in the next building. So that's all buildings that's going to be available to the people in downtown Salisbury if people can't come into Salisbury and park. The part about killing farmland, I really appreciate that gentleman's comments, because we see it in the rural areas, the people building houses, we lose farmland. But a lot of these people ain't going to live in Salisbury. they're going to live in the rural area. I'm lucky enough to live in the rural area, and if somebody told me, hey, you can't live here anymore on this piece of property, I'd go find another piece in the rural area. I wouldn't be moving to Salisbury because I don't want to live in Salisbury. I don't want to live in any town. It's not just Salisbury. So you talk about killing farmland. This is off the subject a little bit. One of the biggest things killing farmland right now is where the solar panels coming along. We're paying so much more money now than what farmers can afford to rent land for. So like I say, the elephant in the room is parking. If you can figure out how to keep parking and keep it even and level for the amount of building that's going up, it's fine. But I don't think it can be done at this present time. That's all I have.
Thank you. Right? Are there other comments from anyone? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I have a few. First off, I will say I rode my bike here today, so I did not consume a parking space, just to go on the record. I went through, maybe some might have noticed, I have this placemat, and I'm keeping track of things kind of, I'm an engineer by training, so I look at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And this has been super useful today to hear all this feedback, because I came in here with a few things already filled out, but boy, I added to the list. So first and foremost, we had a lot of people speaking in favor of this, a lot of people voicing their opposition. I really appreciate all the feedback, because while this may have not made our decision any easier as planning commissioners, it helps us greatly to consider things that we hadn't even considered. Like I said, I've added more things to my placemat than I had when I started. There are a number of strengths and opportunities that I see that are with this. I really won't go into those because I think they are almost self-evident. There's also a lot of potential weaknesses that could be brought out. And the threats that are associated with this, whether we increase density or we don't increase density, the weaknesses and threats still remain. Parking will remain a perceived issue in this community, whether we approve this density change or not. Impacts to downtown residences will be an issue, whether we approve this or not. We don't have a long-term plan for open space. That was one of the things that came out of the staff report that I found very useful. That's going to be an issue for us whether we approve this or not. And I'd like to say that I think coming out of this, I really implore all of our leaders to take whatever decision we make today and come together and do what's best for our community. One of the things my wife is always embarrassed, and sorry for the monologue, but with me is that one of my favorite parts of the wedding ceremony, every time we go to a wedding, is it's a union between a man and a woman, and then the officiant usually then reaches out to everyone in the congregation and says something to the effect of, will all those here present do everything they can in their power to support these two in this union? And the answer is not just a passive acknowledgement, it's we will, and you shout it. And I get that's very, very important to me personally, and so therefore I embarrass my wife because I say it very loud. I think coming out of this today, we need to have the same we will as a community. And that's whether you are in favor of this proposal or against this proposal. But again, I appreciate everybody's feedback today. Like I said, it makes our decision maybe harder, but at the same time, I think it's a much more thoughtful decision that each of us will have as commissioners.
Other comments?
I always have a comment, it seems like, but there's been a lot presented today, both ways, and I'm not entirely sure that I can make a decision tonight. I'm not trying to kick the can down the road. It's a very big decision. Could affect the downtown for a long time. I do think that we have looked at these opportunities, and I've lived here for 55 years, at least 50 years of the possibility of developing downtown. And I fear that waiting too long, the potential developers are going to go somewhere else. but I would like to take a little extra time to digest what we've heard today. Just my thought. I mean, that's not a motion.
Are there other comments from anyone? First of all, I want to echo Mr. Drew's comments and thank the public for your input today. I think it's been an important part of the process for us to hear the concerns about this particular issue on both sides. It was done respectfully. I think it was done with a lot of careful thought on the part of everyone who participated. It's the way we do things, or it's the way we should do things. And I think it's a breath of fresh air to see the public come to a session such as this, to take your time, to be here, to voice your concern, ask your questions, hear the presentations, so that you can be better informed and so that you can help us as commissioners to be better informed about the decisions we make. I think it's time for making a decision. I respect what Mr. Thomas has indicated, more time to discuss issues. We have time constraints within the process. And let me say, do I think there is room for improvement to this process that brings us here today? And my answer is yes. We can do better. We can come together as developers and staff and take the time to roll up our sleeves and work hard to come together and compromise and present to this commission a unified approach to how we grow our city and our county. That is the goal we have. That is the best way to do business in our city and county. And it's the best way for the commission to make and support decisions that have been worked on for long periods of time, but have come to the best decision that will support our developers, the government planning staff, and the citizens of our city and county. So I encourage that. I think we all want it. We'd like to see that. So there's room for improvement. And it's not just this project, but there will be more coming to us, regardless of what we do today. But it's time for the Planning Commission to make a decision. We have an opportunity to either move for a favorable recommendation to our city or an unfavorable recommendation to our city. So that's our function, that's our job. It comes to us that way, and I think it's time for that decision. So the chair will entertain a motion for the Salisbury Planning and Zoning Commission to forward a favorable recommendation to the Salisbury City Council for the requested text amendment to increase density within the Central Business District from 40 to 80 units per acre based on the following findings of fact. Number one, growth and development of the downtown area has been consistent with the goals of the city of Salisbury for the better part of the last 60 years. Number two, the increase in density is consistent and in furtherance of the current comprehensive plan adopted by the city of Salisbury in 2010, which promotes developing in a compact development pattern and redevelop underutilized areas. Number three, the increase in density is consistent with the 2016 Envisions Downtown Master Plan, which was adopted by the city of Salisbury by resolution number 2600 on March 17th, 2016, which promotes redevelopment and additional housing opportunities. Number four, there are several buildings in the downtown area that already exceed the current 40 units per acre, including but not limited to the Ross, 340 units an acre, the Powell Building, 64 units an acre, 100 West Main Street, 78 units per acre, 117 West Main Street, 63 units per acre. 113 West Main Street, 59 units per acre. 235 West Main Street, 59 units per acre. In prior and relatively recent staff reports requesting an increase in density, the City of Salisbury has issued favorable staff reports. For example, the City of Salisbury submitted favorable staff reports for the special exceptions sought for the Ross and Salisbury Town Center Apartments LLC. Number 6, sufficient evidence has not been presented to show that the increase in density would pose an endangerment to the public health, security, or general welfare of our citizens. Number 7, although an increase in residents for the downtown area could result in the need of additional emergency, educational, and other city services, the additional revenue generated will offset the impact of the cost of those services. Number 8, any of the issues raised with respect to water and sewer can be appropriately addressed and handled through current stormwater regulations and the permitting process. Number 9, sufficient evidence has not been presented to show that the increase in density will create an undue concentration of population or substantially increase the congestion of the streets or create hazardous traffic conditions. Number 10, with respect to the impact on the surrounding neighborhood, many of the surrounding businesses offered letters of support for the development, including but not limited to Habitat, Tidal Health, the Chamber of Commerce, and the Greater Salisbury Committee. Finally, number 11, the increase in density to the CBD will help alleviate some of the housing shortages that Salisbury and the state of Maryland as a whole are facing. So the chair will entertain a motion. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any comment, question, further discussion either of the commission members would like to pursue?
Like a roll call vote?
Well, let's see. Let's see how it goes. Okay. All right, there's no other questions. If you will support the motion, please say aye.
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 Are there any opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, I think we have one opposed and 6. The chair votes aye, so there are 6 in favor. So the motion is approved. All right. Is there anything further
To include in
needed from the commission in regard to this particular issue? Staff,
No, we are fine.
council?
No.
Okay, fine.
I'll need a copy of that to include in the decision, I
I'll
believe.
provide it to you.
Thank you.
Chairman
I
Shield,
think
point of privilege, if we could just give a few minutes for everybody to
Absolutely.
leave.
I think we'll take a 5-minute recess, so those of us who may need to use the facilities can do so, and we'll come back in 5 minutes.